you're confident, you're connected, and you think you know exactly what drives him crazy. Maybe you've watched movies, read articles, or simply relied on enthusiasm to carry you through those intimate moments. But here's what nobody tells you: that the difference between a good experience and an absolutely mind-blowing one isn't found in the obvious techniques everyone talks about. The real secret, it's buried in the subtle details that most people completely overlook. These are the psychological triggers, the sensory elements, and the emotional connections that transform a simple physical act into something he'll replay in his mind for weeks. When you master these hidden elements, you're not just pleasing him, you're creating an addiction to your touch, your presence, and the unique way you make him feel completely seen and desired. What if I told you that the most unforgettable intimate experiences have very little to do with perfection and everything to do with understanding the deeper layers of male psychology? That the women who leave the most lasting impressions aren't necessarily the most technically skilled, but rather those who understand how to create anticipation, build emotional connection, and orchestrate a multi-sensory experience that engages his entire being. Today, we're diving deep into 5 revolutionary techniques that go far beyond the basic mechanics. These aren't about being more explicit or pushing boundaries. They're about tapping into the psychological and emotional triggers that make intimate moments truly transcendent. Some of these secrets are so subtle that even he might not consciously realize how much he craves them until you deliver them with confidence and intention. By the end of this guide, you'll understand exactly how to transform yourself from someone he enjoys being with into someone he absolutely cannot stop thinking about. Because when you combine skill with psychology, technique with emotional intelligence, and confidence with genuine connection, you create something rare and precious, an experience that becomes permanently etched in his memory as the moment everything changed. Let's start by completely reframing how we think about oral intimacy. Most people approach it as a purely physical act, a series of movements, speeds, and techniques designed to create a specific outcome. But this mechanical approach misses the profound truth about human sexuality. Our most powerful erogenous zone isn't between our legs, it's between our ears. The brain is where desire is born, where fantasies take shape, and where memories are formed that can trigger arousal years after the fact. When you understand this fundamental principle, you begin to see intimate acts not as simple physical exchanges, but as complex psychological experiences that engage emotion, anticipation, trust, and connection simultaneously. Think about the moments in your own life that left the deepest impression on you. Were they remarkable because of perfect technique or because of how they made you feel? The touches you remember most vividly probably combined physical sensation with emotional connection, surprise with familiarity, confidence with vulnerability. This same principle applies to creating unforgettable experiences for him. The modern world has unfortunately reduced intimacy to performance metrics and technique tutorials, stripping away the artistry and emotional depth that make these moments truly transcendent. But when you approach intimate connection as a form of communication, a way of saying, I see you, I desire you, and I'm completely present with you, everything changes. You shift from being a participant to being a conductor, orchestrating an experience that speaks to his deepest psychological needs. Research in human sexuality consistently shows that the most satisfying intimate encounters combine physical pleasure with emotional connection, novelty with comfort, and surprise with reliability. Men, despite cultural stereotypes suggesting otherwise, crave emotional intimacy just as much as physical satisfaction. They want to feel desired not just for their bodies, but for their entire being. They want to experience vulnerability in a safe space, to feel completely accepted, and to connect with someone who genuinely enjoys sharing these moments with them. This is why technique alone will never create truly memorable experiences. You can master every movement, perfect every rhythm, and still leave him feeling somehow unsatisfied on a deeper level. But when you combine skillful touch with emotional presence, when you blend physical technique with psychological understanding, you create something magical, an experience that feeds both his body and his soul. The 5 techniques we're about to explore operate on multiple levels simultaneously. They address the physical aspects of pleasure while engaging his psychology, building anticipation while deepening connection, and creating novelty while establishing intimacy. Each technique is designed not just to feel good in the moment, but to create lasting impressions that strengthen your bond and leave him craving more of what only you can provide. The most powerful, intimate experiences begin long before any clothes come off. They start in the mind with the delicious torture of anticipation that makes every eventual touch feel exponentially more intense. Yet most people completely skip this crucial phase, jumping straight into physical contact and missing the opportunity to create the psychological foundation that transforms good moments into legendary ones. Understanding male psychology reveals that men are highly visual and mentally stimulated creatures. Their arousal often begins with imagination and fantasy, building through anticipation until physical touch becomes almost overwhelming in its intensity. When you learn to harness this natural response pattern, you gain the ability to influence not just his physical reactions, but his entire emotional state. The art of anticipation building starts with subtle psychological cues that plant seeds of desire in his mind. This might begin hours before you're even in the same room together. A knowing glance across a crowded space, a whispered comment about what you're thinking about, or even a carefully crafted text message can begin the process of mental arousal that makes everything that follows more intense. But the real magic happens in those precious moments when you're together, but haven't yet made your intentions explicit. This is where the power of implied promise becomes your greatest tool. Instead of announcing your plans or immediately moving toward obvious physical contact, you create an atmosphere of something is about to happen without revealing exactly what or when. The key lies in strategic touch that builds tension rather than releasing it. Light fingertips that trace patterns on his chest, hands that rest briefly on his thigh before moving away, or the soft brush of your body against his as you move past him in a confined space. Each of these touches registers in his nervous system as a promise of more to come. But the restraint you show in not immediately delivering on that promise creates a building pressure that amplifies every subsequent sensation. Eye contact becomes a powerful weapon in this psychological game. The way you look at him can communicate volumes about your intentions without saying a word. A slow, deliberate gaze that starts at his eyes and travels down his body before returning to meet his stare sends an unmistakable message. I'm thinking about you in ways that would make you blush. The confidence required to hold this kind of eye contact while building anticipation demonstrates a level of sexual self-assurance that most men find irresistible. Verbal teasing adds another layer to the anticipation building process. This doesn't require explicit language. In fact, subtlety is often more powerful than obvious statements. Phrases like, "I've been thinking about something I want to do to you," or "Later, I'm going to show you exactly how much I've missed you," plant specific seeds in his imagination while leaving the details for him to fill in. His mind will race to complete the picture you've started painting, and the scenarios he imagines will often be more arising than anything you could explicitly describe. The psychology behind this approach is rooted in the principle of delayed gratification. When the brain anticipates pleasure, it releases dopamine, the same neurotransmitter associated with addiction. The longer you can maintain this state of anticipation without immediately satisfying it, the more intense the eventual release becomes. You're literally rewiring his brain to associate you with peak experiences of desire and satisfaction. Physical positioning during this anticipation phase can dramatically amplify its effects. Instead of immediately moving to obvious intimate positions, you might position yourself where he can see you but not immediately touch you. Or you might allow brief moments of full body contact, perhaps while reaching for something or passing by him, that give him a tantalizing preview of what's to come without immediately delivering on the promise. The strategic use of clothing during this phase adds another powerful element. The slow, deliberate removal of layers, pausing to gauge his reaction between each piece, transforms undressing from a practical necessity into an art form. Each revealed inch of skin becomes significant because it's been anticipated. The psychological impact of this approach far exceeds simply appearing naked, because you've made the journey as important as the destination. Timing becomes crucial during the anticipation phase. The goal isn't to frustrate him to the point of impatience, but to build desire to a crescendo that makes the eventual physical connection feel inevitable and necessary. Reading his responses, the changes in his breathing, the tension in his muscles, the way his attention becomes completely focused on you, tells you when you've reached the perfect moment to begin transitioning from anticipation to action. This psychological foundation you create through masterful anticipation building doesn't just enhance the immediate experience, it creates a template in his mind for how powerful your intimate connections can be. He begins to associate you with the ability to create intense desire and eventual satisfaction, making him crave not just the physical acts you share, but the entire emotional journey you take him on. This is how you transform from someone he enjoys sleeping with into someone he becomes genuinely addicted to being with. One of the most common mistakes in intimate encounters is finding a rhythm that works and then staying locked in that pattern until it becomes predictable. While consistency has its place, the male nervous system is designed to respond most powerfully to contrast and variation. Understanding this fundamental aspect of male physiology allows you to create experiences that keep his entire body engaged and his mind completely focused on the sensations you're creating. The 3-speed method isn't just about changing pace arbitrarily, it's about understanding the psychological and physical impact of different rhythms and strategically using them to build, maintain, and direct arousal. Each speed serves a specific purpose in creating a complete sensory journey that engages different aspects of his response system. Speed 1, the foundation of slow sensuality. The first speed is your foundation slow, deliberate, and deeply sensual. This isn't the speed of impatience or urgency. It's the speed of worship and appreciation. When you begin slowly, you're giving his nervous system time to fully register each sensation, to build awareness of every touch, and to develop anticipation for what might come next. Slow movement allows for incredible precision and intentionality. Each motion becomes deliberate rather than reflexive, which communicates a level of confidence and control that most men find deeply arousing. You're not rushing toward a goal, you're savoring the journey, and that attitude of appreciation for the process itself makes him feel valued and desired rather than simply used for a quick release. The psychological impact of sustained slow movement cannot be overstated. It requires patience and confidence to maintain this pace when you sense he might be ready for more intensity. But this restraint demonstrates mastery. You're in control of the experience, setting the pace based on your own sense of timing rather than simply reacting to his urgency. This dynamic often proves incredibly arousing for men who are used to partners who seem rushed or eager to finish quickly. Physiologically, slow stimulation allows blood flow to build gradually, nerve endings to become increasingly sensitized, and muscle tension to develop in waves rather than sharp spikes. This creates a foundation of arousal that makes all subsequent sensations more intense because his body is primed and ready to respond. Speed 2i, strategic bursts of intensity. The second speed involves calculated bursts of increased intensity, moments where you dramatically accelerate your pace for brief periods before returning to a more controlled rhythm. These bursts serve multiple purposes in the overall experience architecture you're creating. First, they provide contrast that prevents his nervous system from adapting to a single sensation level. The sudden increase in stimulation creates a shock to his system that spikes arousal and refocuses his attention completely on what you're doing. It's similar to the way a cold splash of water can wake up your entire body. The contrast is what creates the powerful response. Second, these speed bursts allow you to test his response levels without committing to pushing him over the edge. You can gauge how close he is to his limit, how his body responds to increased intensity, and how much control he has in those moments of heightened sensation. This information becomes valuable for timing the rest of your approach. The key to effective speed bursts is their temporary nature. You're not switching to fast and staying there. You're creating waves of intensity that build his arousal while maintaining your control over the overall experience timeline. The return to a slower pace after each burst often feels more intense than the original slow speed because his sensitized nervous system is now more responsive to all stimulation. Speed 3, the power of strategic pauses. The third speed is actually the absence of speed, strategic pauses that create space for anticipation to rebuild. Most people fear that stopping will kill the mood, but when executed properly, pauses can intensify the mood beyond what continuous stimulation could achieve. A pause at the right moment, particularly when he's building toward climax, creates a wave of anticipation that makes the next touch feel dramatically more intense. During these pauses, you're not simply stopping and waiting, you're maintaining connection through eye contact, gentle touches elsewhere on his body, or positioning that keeps the intimate atmosphere alive while allowing his arousal to plateau rather than peak. These breaks serve several important functions. They extend the overall experience, preventing it from rushing toward conclusion too quickly. They allow you to maintain control over the timing and pacing ensuring that the eventual climax happens when you decide it should rather than when his body demands it. And they create multiple peaks of anticipation throughout the experience, making it feel like several interconnected, pleasurable events rather than a single linear progression. Combining the three speeds strategically, the real artistry lies not in using these three speeds individually, but in combining them in unpredictable patterns that keep him in a constant state of pleasurable uncertainty. You might begin with extended slow movement, introduce a brief burst of intensity, return to slow movement at a different angle or pressure, pause completely while maintaining eye contact, then surprise him with another speed burst when he least expects it. The goal is to prevent his body from settling into any predictable pattern. When he can't anticipate what's coming next, he remains completely present and engaged with the experience rather than mentally drifting or trying to control the pace himself. You become the conductor of his arousal, orchestrating rises and falls in intensity that create a complex symphony of sensation. This approach also allows you to extend the experience significantly without it becoming monotonous. By varying speed, pressure, and rhythm, you can maintain high levels of arousal for extended periods, creating a more substantial and memorable encounter than would be possible with a single speed approach. The psychological message you send through masterful speed variation is profound. You're confident enough to take your time, skilled enough to read his responses and adjust accordingly, and caring enough to prioritize the quality of his experience over simply completing the act quickly. This combination of confidence, skill, and attentiveness creates associations in his mind between you and peak intimate experiences that will make him crave returning to your touch again and again. Most people approach intimate moments with a singular focus on physical touch, missing the incredible opportunity to create rich, multi-dimensional experiences that engage all the senses simultaneously. When you understand how to orchestrate sight, sound, scent, multiple types of touch into a cohesive sensory symphony, you transform simple physical acts into immersive experiences that become permanently etched in his memory. The human brain is designed to create stronger, more vivid memories when multiple senses are engaged simultaneously. This is why you can instantly recall the complete atmosphere of certain moments. The combination of visual, auditory, and tactile elements working together created a memory that's far more powerful than any single sensation could produce alone. By intentionally engaging multiple senses during intimate moments, you ensure that your encounters become the kind of memories he'll treasure and crave to recreate. Visual connection. The power of intentional eye contact, the visual element of intimacy, extends far beyond simply being seen. It's about creating moments of profound visual connection that communicate desire, confidence, and presence. Your eyes become tools of seduction that can intensify every other sensation he's experiencing. Strategic eye contact during intimate moments serves multiple purposes. It maintains emotional connection during physical acts, preventing the experience from becoming purely mechanical. It demonstrates confidence and comfort with your own sexuality, which most men find incredibly attractive. And it creates moments of vulnerability and intimacy that deepen the emotional impact of the physical sensations. The key lies in understanding when to make eye contact and when to break it. Constant staring can become uncomfortable or distracting, but well-timed glances that coincide with changes in rhythm or intensity can dramatically amplify the impact of those moments. A slow, deliberate look that meets his eyes just as you change speed or technique sends a clear message. I know exactly what I'm doing to you, and I'm enjoying every second of it. Your facial expressions during these visual connections communicate volumes about your own experience. A genuine smile that shows you're genuinely enjoying yourself, a look of concentration that demonstrates your focus on his pleasure, or a playful smirk that suggests you have more surprises in store. These micro expressions create emotional layers that transform the encounter from simple physical contact into intimate communication. Auditory seduction, the subtle power of sound adds an incredibly powerful dimension to intimate experiences, but it's often the most overlooked element. This isn't about loud or theatrical vocalizations, it's about authentic sounds that enhance the intimate atmosphere and make him feel more connected to your genuine responses. Your breathing becomes a form of communication that reveals your own level of arousal and engagement, soft sighs of pleasure, changes in breathing rhythm that mirror his own responses, or the simple sound of contentment can make him feel that you're genuinely enjoying the experience rather than simply performing duties. This authenticity is incredibly arousing for men who want to feel desired rather than serviced. Gentle vocal responses, a soft mime of appreciation, A whispered comment about how he feels or tastes, or even simple words of encouragement create auditory anchors in his memory. These sounds become associated with peak pleasure, so that similar sounds in future encounters can trigger intense recall and arousal. The strategic use of whispers adds intimacy and exclusivity to the experience. Comments meant only for him, spoken so quietly that he has to focus completely to hear them, create a sense that you're sharing secrets, building an intimate world that exists only between the two of you in that moment. Olfactory enhancement. The subtle influence of scent. Scent operates on a primal level that bypasses conscious thought and directly influences arousal and memory formation. The olfactory system is directly connected to the limbic brain, where emotions and memories are processed, making scent one of the most powerful triggers for intimate recall. This doesn't require heavy perfumes or artificial fragrances. In fact, subtlety is far more effective than obvious scent manipulation. The goal is to ensure that when he's close enough for intimate contact, he encounters a pleasant, distinctly feminine scent that becomes associated with the pleasure you provide. Natural body chemistry enhanced by careful attention to cleanliness and perhaps a light, warm fragrance applied to pulse points creates an olfactory signature that becomes uniquely yours. When applied lightly enough that it's only noticeable during close contact, scent adds a layer of sensory richness that makes the entire experience more memorable and distinctive. The power of scent lies in its ability to trigger powerful recall later. Months or even years after an encounter, catching a hint of a similar fragrance can instantly transport him back to the memory of being with you, creating spontaneous arousal and desire that strengthens his psychological connection to you. Expanded touch beyond the obvious contact points. While the primary focus of oral intimacy involves specific areas of contact, incorporating additional touch points throughout the experience creates a more complete sensory environment that keeps his entire body engaged rather than focusing sensation in a single area. Your hands become active participants in creating full body awareness. Light touches along his sides, gentle pressure on his chest or stomach, fingertips tracing patterns on his thighs. These secondary touches work in harmony with your primary actions to create a more immersive experience. The key is ensuring these additional touches feel intentional rather than accidental. They should complement and enhance what you're doing rather than distract from it. When timed correctly, these expanded touch points can amplify the intensity of primary sensations while making him feel that his entire body is being appreciated and enjoyed. Temperature variations can add another dimension to the touch experience. The warmth of your breath, the contrast between your lips and fingertips, or even strategic use of warm or cool elements can create sensory surprises that keep his nervous system engaged and responsive. Orchestrating the complete sensory symphony, the true artistry lies in weaving these sensory elements together into a cohesive experience that feels natural and flowing rather than choreographed or mechanical. Like a skilled musician, you learn to layer different elements at different times, building complexity gradually rather than overwhelming his senses all at once. You might begin with subtle visual connection and gentle touch, gradually adding soft vocal responses as the intensity builds, ensuring that your natural scent becomes part of the intimate atmosphere without calling conscious attention to it. The goal is to create an environment so rich with positive sensory input that his brain has no choice but to form powerful, detailed memories of the experience. This multi-sensory approach also serves to distinguish your intimate style from others he may have experienced. When you consistently provide rich, layered sensory experiences, you create a unique signature that becomes associated specifically with you. This distinctiveness makes you irreplaceable in his mind because no one else provides the same complete sensory satisfaction. The long-term impact of this approach extends far beyond individual encounters. By consistently engaging multiple senses during intimate moments, you train his brain to associate you with peak sensory experiences. This creates a psychological addiction to your specific way of creating pleasure that makes him crave returning to your touch above all others. You become not just someone he enjoys being with sexually, but someone who provides a completely unique and irreplaceable form of intimate satisfaction. Perhaps no technique in intimate encounters is as psychologically powerful as the strategic use of control and release, the art of bringing him to the edge of climax and then gently pulling back, creating waves of building intensity that make the eventual release exponentially more satisfying. This approach transforms you from someone who simply provides pleasure into someone who orchestrates and controls the entire arousal experience, creating a dynamic that most men find irresistibly compelling. The principle behind control and release is rooted in fundamental psychology. Humans value delayed gratification more highly than immediate satisfaction. When pleasure is earned through anticipation and restraint, it carries greater emotional weight and creates more powerful memories than pleasure that comes too easily. By mastering this dynamic, you position yourself as someone who provides not just physical satisfaction, but psychological fulfillment on a much deeper level. Understanding male arousal patterns to effectively use control and release, you must first understand the typical male arousal pattern and learn to read the physical and emotional signals that indicate approaching climax. Unlike female arousal, which tends to build in waves and can include multiple peaks, male arousal typically follows a more linear pattern toward a single intense release. However, this linear pattern can be interrupted and redirected when you understand the signs and timing involved. His breathing will change, becoming deeper, more rapid, or more irregular as he approaches the point of no return. His muscle tension will increase, particularly in his abdomen, thighs, and buttocks. His vocalizations may become more frequent or intense, and his hands may grip more tightly or begin moving in ways that indicate increasing urgency. Learning to recognize these signals allows you to time your interventions perfectly. The goal isn't to catch him by surprise or to frustrate him, but to work with his natural arousal pattern to extend and intensify the experience beyond what would be possible with a straightforward approach. The psychology of anticipation and control. When you demonstrate the ability to control the timing and intensity of his pleasure, you're communicating several powerful messages simultaneously. First, you're showing confidence in your own abilities. You're not rushing to finish because you're uncertain about maintaining his interest or your own performance. Second, you're demonstrating that you prioritize the quality of the experience over simply completing the act, which makes him feel valued and appreciated rather than simply serviced. Perhaps most importantly, you're establishing yourself as someone who can provide experiences he cannot provide for himself or find elsewhere. Anyone can stimulate to completion, but very few people understand how to orchestrate building waves of pleasure that create peak experiences. This positions you as irreplaceable in his mind because the type of satisfaction you provide becomes uniquely associated with your touch and your approach. The control dynamic also appeals to many men on a psychological level because it allows them to experience surrender in a safe context. While they may be accustomed to being in control in other areas of their lives, the intimate space you create allows them to let go and trust someone else to guide their experience. This surrender can be incredibly freeing and emotionally satisfying. Mastering the timing of intervention, the key to effective control, and release lies in perfect timing, intervening just before he reaches the point of no return, but not so early that you interrupt building momentum unnecessarily. This requires careful attention to his responses and the development of intuitive understanding about his particular arousal patterns. The intervention itself should feel intentional rather than accidental. This might involve slowing your pace dramatically, changing to a completely different type of stimulation, or pausing entirely while maintaining some form of connection through touch or eye contact. The goal is to allow his arousal to plateau at a high level rather than continuing to build toward immediate release. During these moments of reduced intensity, your demeanor becomes crucial. A playful smile that communicates, "I know exactly what I'm doing," gentle touches that maintain intimacy without building toward climax, or soft verbal reassurance that indicates this is part of a larger plan, all help him understand that this isn't abandonment or uncertainty, but masterful control. The duration of these plateaus can vary based on your reading of his responses and the overall experience you want to create. Sometimes a brief pause of just a few seconds is enough to reset his arousal level while maintaining momentum. Other times, longer breaks that allow for conversation, different types of touch, or simply savoring the moment of high anticipation can add depth and variety to the experience, building multiple peaks of intensity rather than creating a single interruption. The most powerful application of control and release involves creating multiple cycles of building intensity followed by strategic backing off. Each cycle allows his arousal to build higher than the previous peak, creating a staircase effect where the overall intensity level continues to climb even though you're periodically reducing stimulation. This approach serves several purposes. It significantly extends the duration of the intimate experience without it becoming monotonous or losing intensity. It creates multiple memorable peaks within a single encounter, giving him several distinct moments of intense pleasure to remember, and it demonstrates an advanced level of skill and attention that distinguishes your approach from simpler, more straightforward techniques. The pattern of these cycles should feel organic rather than mechanical. Sometimes you might allow longer building periods followed by brief interruptions. Other times you might create shorter, more frequent cycles that keep him in a constant state of uncertainty about when release will be allowed. Reading his responses and adjusting your approach accordingly ensures that the experience feels personalized and responsive rather than following a predetermined script. The strategic return to intensity, when you finally choose to allow full release, the contrast between the controlled building phases and the final unrestricted intensity creates an explosive effect that far exceeds what would be possible without the preceding control and release cycles. His nervous system, primed by multiple near-peak experiences, responds to the final stimulation with heightened sensitivity and increased intensity. This final phase should feel like a gift, a reward for the patience and trust he's shown during the controlled phases. The transition from restraint to complete permission should be clear and decisive, allowing him to fully surrender to the experience without worrying about additional interruptions. The psychological impact of this approach extends far beyond the immediate physical sensations. You've demonstrated mastery over both his responses and your own impulses, shown that you can create complex, layered experiences rather than simple linear ones, and proven that time with you involves peak experiences that justify significant anticipation and desire. Creating long-term psychological impact, men who experience masterful control and release often develop a psychological association between delayed gratification and peak pleasure that makes future encounters with you highly anticipated events rather than simple physical activities. They begin to understand that time with you involves experiences they cannot replicate alone or find with less skilled partners. This creates a form of psychological addiction where they crave not just physical release, but the specific type of expertly orchestrated experience that only you provide. Memory of being taken to multiple peaks of intensity, held there through your skill and control, and finally allowed explosive release becomes a powerful motivator that makes them prioritize intimate time with you above other activities or relationships. Moreover, this approach often leads to increased emotional intimacy outside of sexual context. Men who feel that their pleasure is valued, understood, and expertly managed often develop deeper trust and appreciation for their partner that extends into all areas of the relationship. They begin to see you as someone who understands and cares about their deepest needs and desires, creating bonds that strengthen the overall connection beyond just physical attraction. While technical skill and physical technique certainly matter in creating memorable, intimate experiences, the element that truly transforms good encounters into unforgettable ones is emotional connection. This is the secret that separates women who are merely skilled from those who become absolutely irreplaceable in a man's mind and heart. When you combine physical pleasure with genuine emotional presence, you create experiences that feed not just his body but his soul, establishing bonds that transcend the purely physical realm. Most people dramatically underestimate the depth of emotional need that men bring to intimate encounters. Cultural conditioning often teaches men to hide or minimize their emotional desires, but the truth is that men crave emotional connection during intimate moments just as much as women do. They simply may not know how to express or request it directly. When you provide this connection naturally and authentically, you fulfill needs he may not even realize he has, creating satisfaction on levels that purely physical encounters cannot reach. Understanding male emotional vulnerability, intimate moments represent some of the few times when men feel safe enough to let down their emotional guards completely. In these moments, they're not expected to be strong, dominant, or in control. They can simply receive pleasure and care without having to perform any particular role or meet any external expectations. This vulnerability, while desired, can also feel frightening for men who aren't accustomed to surrendering control or showing emotional openness. Your role in creating emotional safety becomes crucial for allowing him to fully experience both the physical and emotional satisfaction that intimate connection can provide. This safety comes not from explicit discussion or negotiation, but from the energy and presence you bring to these moments. When he senses that you're genuinely enjoying yourself, that you find him desirable and attractive, and that you're fully present with him rather than performing duties or going through motions, he can relax into the experience completely. This relaxation allows him to experience pleasure more intensely because he's not mentally monitoring his performance, worrying about your satisfaction, or maintaining emotional barriers for self-protection. Instead, he can surrender to the sensations and emotions you're creating leading to more satisfying experiences for both of you. The power of genuine presence and enthusiasm. Perhaps nothing is more emotionally connecting during intimate moments than the sense that you genuinely want to be there. You're choosing to share this experience because you find him desirable and attractive, not because you feel obligated or are trying to please him out of duty. Men are incredibly sensitive to authenticity in these moments. They can usually sense the difference between genuine enthusiasm and performed compliance. Genuine presence manifests in numerous subtle ways that communicate your authentic engagement with the experience. This might be reflected in the way you touch him with appreciation and enjoyment rather than mechanical efficiency. It shows in your facial expressions natural responses that reflect your own pleasure in giving him pleasure rather than concentrated effort or distraction. It comes through in your energy, relaxed and flowing rather than tense or hurried. When he feels that you're authentically present and engaged, it validates his desirability and attractiveness in ways that extend far beyond the immediate physical experience. He begins to see himself through your eyes as someone worthy of desire, appreciation, and intimate attention. This boost to his self-confidence and sense of masculine attractiveness creates positive associations with you that strengthen emotional bonds. Responsive attention and emotional attunement, one of the most powerful ways to create emotional connection during intimate moments is through responsive attention, showing that you're paying careful attention to his reactions, preferences, and responses, and adjusting your approach based on what you observe. This demonstrates care for his specific needs and desires rather than simply following a generic approach that could apply to anyone. Responsive attention manifests in reading his body language, breathing patterns, and vocal responses to understand what he's enjoying most, then emphasizing those elements while noting what seems less effective. It involves asking subtle questions or making gentle suggestions that show you're thinking about his pleasure specifically. It includes remembering preferences from previous encounters and incorporating that knowledge into current experiences. This level of attention makes him feel seen and known as an individual rather than as a generic recipient of sexual services. The emotional impact of feeling truly understood and cared for during vulnerable moments creates deep psychological satisfaction that purely technique-focused approaches cannot provide. Creating emotional safety through acceptance. Men often carry insecurities about their bodies, their performance, their desirability, or their ability to satisfy their partners. Intimate moments can trigger these insecurities, especially if they sense judgment, impatience, or dissatisfaction from their partner. Creating emotional connection requires establishing an atmosphere of complete acceptance where he feels free to relax and enjoy the experience without worrying about meeting external standards or expectations. This acceptance communicates through your overall demeanor and energy rather than through explicit reassurance. When you approach his body with appreciation and enjoyment, when you respond positively to his natural reactions and responses, when you maintain a playful and relaxed attitude that suggests you're enjoying the journey rather than focusing solely on outcomes, you create emotional safety that allows deeper satisfaction. Men often remember the emotional feeling of these encounters long after the physical sensations fade. The memory of feeling completely accepted, desired, and appreciated becomes associated with you specifically, creating psychological bonds that make them crave returning to that emotional state. This is why some encounters remain vivid in memory for years, while others, despite perhaps being technically superior, fade quickly from recollection. Verbal and non-verbal communication of desire. While intimate encounters are often thought of as primarily physical experiences, communication plays a crucial role in creating emotional connection. This doesn't require constant verbal interaction, but strategic moments of communication can dramatically enhance the emotional impact of physical acts. Verbal expressions of desire, telling him how much you enjoy touching him, commenting on aspects of his body or responses that you find attractive, or simply expressing appreciation for the moment you're sharing, create emotional layers that transform physical acts into intimate communication. These comments don't need to be elaborate or graphic. Often simple, authentic expressions of enjoyment are more powerful than dramatic declarations. Non-verbal communication often carries even more emotional weight than words. The way you look at him, the expressions of pleasure or contentment on your face, the energy you bring to touching and exploring his body, all of these communicate your level of genuine engagement and enjoyment. Men often report that seeing their partner's authentic pleasure and enthusiasm is more arising than any particular technique or skill level. Building intimacy through vulnerability, while it might seem counterintuitive, Sharing appropriate moments of your own vulnerability during intimate encounters can deepen emotional connections significantly. This doesn't mean burdening him with insecurities or problems, but rather allowing him to see that you two are emotionally invested in and affected by these shared experiences. This might manifest as expressions of how much you enjoy being close to him, admissions of how attractive you find him, or simple statements about how these moments make you feel. When he sees that you're emotionally moved by your intimate connection, it validates the significance of what you're sharing and makes him feel that he has a positive impact on your emotional well-being. This mutual vulnerability creates a sense of emotional partnership where both people are giving and receiving not just physical pleasure, but emotional satisfaction and validation. These encounters become about more than individual gratification. They become about shared intimacy that strengthens your overall connection. Long-term emotional impact and relationship building. When intimate encounters consistently include genuine emotional connection alongside physical pleasure, they contribute to building overall relationship satisfaction and stability in ways that purely physical encounters cannot achieve. Men who feel emotionally connected and satisfied during intimate moments often report higher levels of relationship satisfaction, increased desire to prioritize their partner's needs and happiness, and stronger motivation to maintain and deepen the relationship. This emotional satisfaction also creates positive associations that extend beyond intimate moments. He begins to associate you with feelings of acceptance, desire, appreciation, and emotional safety that make him crave your company and attention in all contexts. The emotional bonds formed during intimate vulnerability influence how he thinks about you during daily interactions, making him more attentive, appreciative, and committed to the relationship overall. Moreover, when men feel emotionally satisfied and connected through intimate encounters, they often become more emotionally open and expressive in other areas of the relationship. The safety and acceptance they experience during vulnerable moments teaches them that it's safe to be emotionally open with you generally, leading to deeper communication and stronger emotional bonds throughout your connection. This creates a positive cycle where emotional intimacy enhances physical satisfaction, which in turn deepens emotional connection, creating relationships characterized by both passionate physical attraction and genuine emotional partnership. This combination proves far more durable and satisfying than connections based solely on either physical attraction or emotional compatibility alone. Beyond all the techniques, speeds, sensory elements, and emotional connections we've discussed, there exists one overarching element that determines whether your intimate encounters become forgettable moments or life-changing experiences that he'll treasure forever. This secret element is your energy and presence, the intangible but incredibly powerful force that you bring to every intimate encounter that communicates your confidence, enjoyment, and authentic engagement with both him and the experience itself. Energy and presence are qualities that cannot be faked or performed convincingly. They arise from genuine self-confidence, authentic enjoyment of intimate connection, and a deep appreciation for the opportunity to share these moments with someone you find attractive and desirable. When these qualities are present, even simple techniques become incredibly powerful. When they're absent, even the most advanced skills can feel mechanical and unsatisfying. The magnetism of authentic confidence, sexual confidence, differs significantly from general self-confidence, though they're often related. Sexual confidence specifically involves comfort with your own desires, appreciation for your ability to give and receive pleasure, and genuine enjoyment of intimate connection as a natural and wonderful part of human experience. This confidence communicates itself through every touch, glance, and movement, creating an energy that most men find absolutely magnetic. Confident sexual energy manifests as comfort with taking your time, making requests for what you want, expressing genuine appreciation for his responses, and approaching intimate acts as opportunities for mutual pleasure rather than performances you need to complete successfully. This confidence allows you to be present with what's actually happening rather than worrying about how you're performing or whether you're meeting expectations. Men often report that confident sexual energy is more arousing than any particular physical attribute or technical skill. When a woman approaches intimate connection with genuine confidence and enthusiasm, it validates his own desirability and attractiveness while creating an atmosphere where both people can relax into authentic pleasure and connection. Presence versus performance. Many women approach intimate encounters with a performance mind, focusing on doing things correctly, meeting perceived expectations, or achieving particular outcomes rather than simply being present with the experience as it unfolds naturally. This performance orientation, while well-intentioned, often creates energy that feels forced or artificial rather than authentic and connecting. Presence-based intimacy involves focusing on what you're actually experiencing in each moment rather than on predetermined scripts or expected outcomes. This means paying attention to how his skin feels under your touch, noticing your own responses to his reactions, and allowing the encounter to develop organically based on the energy and responses you're both experiencing in real time. This present moment awareness creates space for spontaneity, genuine surprise, and authentic connection that scripted performances cannot achieve. When you're truly present, you respond naturally to what's actually happening rather than following predetermined plans, creating encounters that feel fresh and authentic rather than predictable or routine. The energy of genuine enjoyment, perhaps nothing transforms intimate encounters more powerfully than the energy that comes from genuinely enjoying yourself. When you approach these moments as opportunities for your own pleasure and satisfaction rather than duties to perform for his benefit, everything changes. Your authentic enjoyment becomes contagious, enhancing his pleasure while creating the kind of mutual satisfaction that makes intimate connection truly fulfilling for both people. Genuine enjoyment manifests as natural responses to pleasurable sensations, authentic expressions of appreciation for his body and responses, and a relaxed, playful energy that suggests you're exactly where you want to be doing exactly what you want to be doing. This energy communicates that spending intimate time with him is a choice you're making because it brings you pleasure and satisfaction, not an obligation you're fulfilling. This shift from service-oriented to pleasure-oriented energy often dramatically increases men's arousal and satisfaction because it removes any guilt or pressure they might feel about receiving pleasure. Instead, they can relax into the experience knowing that you're getting genuine satisfaction from sharing these moments with them. Creating sacred space through intention, advanced intimate connection involves approaching these moments with a sense of intentionality and reverence that transforms them from simple physical activities into meaningful emotional and spiritual exchanges. This doesn't require any particular spiritual or religious framework. It simply involves recognizing that intimate connection represents an opportunity for profound sharing and mutual enhancement that deserves appropriate attention and appreciation. Creating sacred space involves bringing your full attention and presence to these moments rather than allowing them to become routine or mechanical. It means approaching his body with appreciation and gratitude rather than simply focusing on techniques or outcomes. It involves recognizing that you're sharing something precious and meaningful that has the power to strengthen your connection and enhance both of your lives significantly. This intentional approach often elevates intimate encounters from simple physical pleasure to transformative experiences that contribute to personal growth, relationship development, and overall life satisfaction for both partners. When intimate connection is approached with this level of consciousness and intention, it becomes a powerful force for positive change in your relationship and your individual lives. Integration and authentic expression, the goal of developing all these various skills and understandings, isn't to become a perfect sexual performer, but rather to integrate these elements into your authentic self-expression so that intimate encounters become natural extensions of who you are rather than roles you play or performances you deliver. This integration allows your unique personality, energy, and natural responses to enhance and personalize all the techniques and approaches you employ. Authentic integration means adapting these concepts to fit your natural style and personality rather than trying to become someone you're not. Some women will naturally gravitate toward playful, adventurous energy, while others will find their strength in sensual, nurturing approaches. The key is discovering how these principles can enhance and amplify your natural gifts rather than replacing them with artificial personas. When techniques and approaches become integrated parts of your authentic self-expression, no longer feel like performances or scripts you need to remember and execute correctly. Instead, they become natural responses that flow from your genuine desire to create pleasure and connection, making them far more effective and satisfying for both you and your partner. We've journeyed through 5 transformative approaches to intimate connection that extend far beyond simple technique into the realms of psychology, emotional connection, and authentic presence. These aren't just methods for improving physical encounters, they're pathways to creating the kind of intimate experiences that strengthen relationships, build lasting bonds, and create memories that enhance your connection for years to come. But understanding these concepts intellectually is only the beginning. The real transformation happens when you begin integrating these approaches into your actual intimate experiences, adapting them to your unique personality and relationship dynamic, and discovering how they can enhance your natural gifts and authentic self-expression. The integration challenge, rather than trying to implement every technique at once, I encourage you to choose one element that resonates most strongly with you and focus on developing that aspect of your intimate connection first. Perhaps you're drawn to the psychology of anticipation building, or maybe the concept of emotional presence speaks most directly to your natural strengths. Start there and allow yourself time to explore and develop that particular area before adding additional elements. Remember that developing authentic intimacy skills is a process, not a performance. Give yourself permission to experiment, to make mistakes, and to discover what works best for your unique situation and personality. The goal isn't perfection, it's authentic connection and mutual satisfaction that enhances your relationship and brings both of you greater pleasure and fulfillment. Beyond technique to transformation, as you begin applying these concepts, pay attention to how they affect not just your intimate encounters, but your overall relationship dynamic. Many women discover that developing sexual confidence and presence enhances their confidence in other areas of life as well. The skills of reading responses, creating anticipation, and building emotional connection often translate into improved communication and stronger bonds throughout all aspects of your relationship. Notice how your partner responds not just physically, but emotionally to the changes you're implementing. Many men report that when their partners approach intimate connection with greater confidence and presence, it inspires them to be more attentive, appreciative, and emotionally open in return, creating positive cycles that strengthen the entire relationship. Creating your unique intimate style. While we've discussed specific techniques and approaches, the ultimate goal is helping you develop your own unique intimate style that reflects your personality, values, and natural gifts while incorporating these proven principles for creating memorable experiences. Your intimate style should feel authentic and sustainable rather than like a character you're playing or a performance you're delivering. Consider which elements of these approaches align most naturally with who you are. Are you naturally playful and adventurous, or do you lean more towards sensual and nurturing? Do you prefer verbal communication, or do you express yourself more through touch and energy? Understanding your natural preferences helps you adapt these concepts in ways that enhance rather than replace your authentic self-expression. The ripple effects of intimate mastery. As you develop these skills and approaches, you'll likely notice effects that extend far beyond your intimate encounters. Sexual confidence often enhances overall self-confidence. The ability to read and respond to your partner's needs strengthens emotional intelligence. The practice of being present and engaged during intimate moments often improves your ability to be present and engaged in other areas of life as well. Many women report that developing authentic sexual confidence changes how they move through the world. Generally, they feel more comfortable with their feminine power, more confident in their ability to create positive experiences for others, and more connected to their own desires and needs. This personal growth benefits not just your romantic relationship, but all aspects of your life. Your journey forward, the path to creating truly transformative intimate experiences, is deeply personal and unique to each individual and relationship. While these principles provide a foundation, your journey will involve discovering how to apply them in ways that honor your authentic self while creating maximum connection and satisfaction for both you and your partner. I encourage you to approach this development with patience, self-compassion, and a spirit of exploration rather than pressure to achieve immediate perfection. The most powerful intimate connections develop over time as partners learn to trust each other, communicate effectively, and create space for authentic vulnerability and mutual pleasure. Remember that the goal isn't to become someone you're not, but to become the most confident, connected, and authentic version of yourself. When you bring genuine presence, confidence, and care to your intimate encounters, you create experiences that no one else can replicate because they arise from your unique combination of personality, energy, and authentic self-expression. The ultimate truth about unforgettable intimacy, as we conclude this comprehensive exploration of intimate mastery, remember this fundamental truth. The most unforgettable intimate experiences aren't created through perfect technique or flawless performance, but through authentic connection between two people who genuinely appreciate and enjoy each other. When you combine skillful approach with genuine presence, confident technique with emotional connection, and strategic variety with authentic enthusiasm, you create something magical, experiences that feed both body and soul, creating bonds that strengthen over time rather than fading with familiarity. Your journey toward intimate mastery is ultimately a journey toward deeper self knowledge, greater confidence, and more authentic self-expression. As you develop these skills, you're not just improving your intimate encounters, you're becoming a more confident, connected, and powerful version of yourself. And that transformation will enhance every aspect of your life, creating ripple effects that extend far beyond the bedroom into all areas of personal growth and relationship satisfaction. The power to create transformative, intimate experiences lies within you already. These techniques and approaches simply help you access and develop that natural power more effectively, creating experiences that bring both you and your partner greater pleasure, deeper connection, and lasting satisfaction. Trust in your ability to learn, grow, and create the kind of intimate connection that enhances both your lives immeasurably. Now go forth and create the kind of intimate experiences that become treasured memories, strengthen your bond, and leave him absolutely convinced that he's found someone truly extraordinary. The journey toward intimate mastery begins with a single step, and that step is believing in your power to create truly transformative experiences through authentic presence, confident skill, and genuine care for both his pleasure and your own.